disability is not a what if, like it is an eventuality. It's gonna happen to you at some point, like whether it's a serious injury and you're laid up for an entire month, or you get a chronic illness and everything changes. Like it's gonna happen to you at some point. And it's like I feel like we need to stop being so ableist.
People will have been living in pain for so long, and just to have like their doctor be like, yeah, I get what you're feeling, I get how frustrating it is, and like this is a long journey, it's not going to be fixed magically, like I can do a lot to help you, but there's still going to be those bad days.
Hello and welcome to the Stoner Story Witch. My name is Kristyn. I am so glad to be hosting this podcast on Chorotega lands, colonially known as Costa Rica. I'm really excited today because I am about to do something new again. I am embarking on more of an exploration into the romantasy world, which would come as a shock to nobody who has been listening to any of the previous podcasts. What I was really yearning for was to have conversations around disability justice and Indigenous sovereignty, relating it to the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. That is, the first book is The Fourth Wing, and then the second book is Iron Flame. And we are days away from the release of the third book, Onyx Storm. It is a 5-book anticipated series, so we're just about halfway through. Anyway, I found that there is I have a few people in my life who have read the book, and a few people in my life that have disabilities and like lived experience of operating in the world with a disability. And I really wanted to have a conversation about this story mixed with the human connection of what it is to be in a disabled body. And really my question is, like, how was it reading this book? So of course, as usual, this podcast contains spoilers for the first 2 books. That would be Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. So if you have not read those and you are sensitive to spoilers, I advise you to pause. It also feels noteworthy that at the beginning of the month, I was gearing up to interview Sophie Strand. And Sophie Strand is an amazing writer that I've mentioned on several different occasions, lots of her books and Substacks and things, and I will probably continue to do so for the foreseeable future. But Sophie Strand also lives with a chronic illness, and I will actually plug her book, The Body is a Doorway, comes out in March. I will post a link for a pre-order, because the book is literally about like healing hope in the human or something, or hope beyond healing. I will check on that. But anyway, in her Substack, We Live and Die in Real Bodies, she says, I'm struggling to imagine a life where I might decay and die and also get to live and thrive at the same time. I'm looking for better stories. I love fantasy, but let it be a fantasy where I am fully present in all my weird, sick, gross nuance. It was my hope to have Sophie on the podcast, and tracking her, I follow her on social media, and I can tell that she is really going through it as a person in a disabled body. I want us to live in a world where we can practice that we can say no to things, because your wellness matters. And I think it's important for me to acknowledge that, I would absolutely love it if the world was great. I could have Sophie Strand on my podcast to talk about her upcoming book. And in the spirit of all of that, I can still have these conversations with people that it matters to. And it matters to me. And I want us to live in a world where we can rest and we can take breaks. I'm going to give a little bit of just an overview of the story. So Fourth Wing and Iron Flame are the first 2 books in the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. And Rebecca Yarros actually has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder, as well as POTS, which is an autonomic nervous system disorder that I know has problems with, like headaches and also like kind of irregular heart rhythms. Rebecca Yarros has confirmed that Violet, the protagonist in these novels, also has these conditions, and they very much define her experience in the books. The story takes place in Basgayath War College in Navarre. My apologies if I mispronounce these things. Where Violet is a first-year student in the Rider quadrant, which is a very violent, physically demanding, and dangerous quadrant. Part of what they need to do is bond an increasingly scarce number of dragons, and then they become dragon riders, and they fight on them, and they learn how to channel their dragon's power through them and manifest a signet power that comes from the unique bond of that rider with their dragon. Examples being, elements of mind reading or wielding elements or all sorts of things. So for the majority of Violet's life, she was actually planning and preparing for the scribe quadrant, which is, more of an academic knowledge keeper kind of place. Like in the library, basically, is what it kind of sounds like. And her father was a scribe, but he has already died when the story begins. And her mother, however, is a high-ranking commander and dragon rider of Navarre. And she forces Violet to enroll in the Rider quadrant, much to Violet's dread and disappointment. In the very beginning of book 1, we actually see Violet's older sister, Mira, a rider, arguing with their mother to not make Violet enroll in the Rider quadrant. We learn that there's only a 30% chance or so that the strongest and most able-bodied of the bunch can actually survive the entire 3 years of the Rider quadrant. And with Violet's disabilities, it seems as though it's almost guaranteed death. Like the conversation is very much like, okay, like I guess I'm dying. But her mother insists. So her sister Mira helps her the best she can. She tells her to find her childhood best friend Dane, a second-year rider, to help protect her, and to stay away from Xaden. Xaden is a third-year rider and a child of the Tirish Rebellion, which was a rebellion of Navari forces, which was a rebellion against the Navari forces that resulted in the parents of 107 children to be executed by none other than Violet's mom. And the children of those rebels were then forcibly enrolled into this really dangerous, really violent rider quadrant once they swear allegiance to Navarre. Anyway, Xaden is the oldest and therefore the leader of these like Tirish rebels. Okay, so from the very beginning, Violet is greatly afraid that at any time the kids of the rebellion could murder her, especially Xaden. And Xaden and his crew definitely hate Violet's mom, and then therefore Violet kind of, by extension. However, don't worry, spoiler alert, they end up falling in love. Okay, so Violet has been conditioned to hate kids with rebellion relics, which is, it's noteworthy that all the children of the Tirish Rebellion have these like full arm tattoos. They call them relics, the rebellion relics. Anyway, and there are rules that no more than 3 kids with these relics can meet at a time in one place. And yet, when Violet sees Xaden offering mentorship to a group of first years, there is a first year rider that asks, like, what do we do about history class? And Xaden's response is, keep what you know, recite what they tell you. And I'm just going to put a pin in that for now. But she notably does not turn in Xaden. He actually realizes that she's there and they have a confrontation. But she doesn't turn him in. And this feels really important to me because it feels like this anti-Karen moment. And I'm using Karen as that term of a dysregulated white-bodied woman who is seeing some group of people that she's been conditioned to be suspicious of or fearful of. And she reports them for I mean, a Karen would actually be reporting for things that like aren't even illegal. But in this case, it's like there is actually a rule that is written that says that, no more than 3 can meet. Well, it still feels fear and hatred of these people, and yet still doesn't turn them in, even though they have actually like broken like a hard and fast rule. And it's because her inner moral compass recognizes that like there wasn't actually anything sinister going on. She's like, he's just helping them. It's not wrong to help someone. Like, that's a stupid ass rule. In later chapters that Rebecca Yarros has released from Xaden's perspective, like after the book was published, and it appears that this is a moment that was very surprising, very alluring and intriguing. And it was the moment where it seems as though Xaden started falling in love with Violet. And I'll come back to that in a sec. Okay, so we have Violet, who's reunited with her childhood best friend Dane, but like the year has been good to him, so she's kind of like attracted to him, has a little crush on him. But Dane keeps wanting to help her escape. And when they realize that like her mom would just send her right back, like there is no escaping to the scribe quadrant, he is then obsessed with protecting her, which gets to a point where it's almost coddling. Versus Xaden, who starts to teach Violet how to fight more strategically given the body that she is in. As book 1 builds, Violet is gaining strength, confidence, fortitude, friends, and bonds, not just 1, but 2 dragons during this event that's called threshing. And it is absolutely unheard of that any rider would bond 2 dragons. Like, it has never happened before. It like creates a whole flurry of controversy. Anyway, this bonding scene, this threshing scene is significant because one of the dragons there was like super, super tiny and seemingly weak. And there's this first year bully, Jack Barlow, that is planning to murder so as to keep the dragon population strong. And like, warning, like this obsession with like a pure bloodline and like eugenics and like that is like let's just notice that. Anyway, Violet risks her life to save this little dragon. She's outnumbered. It's not just Jack Barlow. There's like other guys that he's roped in. Anyway, Violet is risking her life, therefore catching the attention of Tairn, who is actually the strongest dragon of all, who ends up bonding her, as well as that small dragon that she was protecting, whose name is Andarna. And it's worth noting here that Tairn is mate bonded with Sigale, who is Xaden's dragon. And like this whole like Xaden and Violet being bonded to like mate bonded dragons really like aids this haters to lovers pipeline. As Violet was about to die while defending Andarna, we learn that Xaden was just beginning to interfere and help Violet fight off Jack and his crew, which is an act that is absolutely forbidden during threshing. Only first years are like allowed to be like interacting with anyone. It was like questionable that he was even there, but he was there. Anyway, even after threshing, Dane still is yearning to protect Violet. Even though she is a bona fide badass, there is this defining moment for me when Violet says that Dane is so focused on the least that I'm capable of doing, he can't believe that I can do so much more. Violet gains incredible power, yet she is always struggling with difficult recoveries, chronic pain, and an inability to keep her seat while she's riding Tairn. Dane is also this like symbolic, thoughtless obedience to rules where we can see that both Xaden and Violet are led by their own sense of morality first. Rules be damned, right? Like there's more that I can say, but just trust me that like, there's also this element of like, but like when the rules are unjust, then like they don't need to be kept. That I just think is really important to name for their romance. Okay. In the history of Basgiath, no rider has ever had any accommodations to ride their dragon, but Tern always assists Violet in climbing onto his back. He catches her when she falls. He ultimately defends her using a saddle that Xaden had made for her. And Tern says, and I quote, "There is no rule that says a dragon cannot modify their seat to serve their rider. You have worked just as hard, if not harder, than every rider in this quadrant. Just because your body is built differently than the others doesn't mean you don't deserve to keep your seat. It takes more than a few strips of leather and a pommel to define a rider." Okay, and I also just want to take a moment to deepen into the romantic and attachment implications here as well. So, as I've said on earlier podcasts, and I've cited Carmen Spaniola's work on secure attachment, that secure attachment is being safe, seen, secure, and soothed. By which I mean safe is that you are free from physical harm as well as psychological terror, which notably in Basgiath, similar to capitalism, is kind of impossible. So it can be kind of used relatively. Secure attachment is about being seen, and to be seen means that all parts of you are welcome. Secure is that there is consistency, and soothed is like that you are attuned to, that you're gotten, that you're understood, that there's like emotional resonance. And there's an element of being seen here that Xaden knows from the jump about Violet's disability. Violet is fully seen and recognized, and Xaden is never trying to like save her or cure her, and certainly never like mocks her, even like as a joke. Okay, and all this is noteworthy to me because I recently read on Sophie Strand's Substack, we in a post, "We Live and Die in Real Bodies." She cited a study that showed that when women are diagnosed with a serious medical illness, they are at a huge risk of being abandoned by their male partner. And so Xaden, it's not that he's not leaving. Not only is he not leaving Violet, but he desires her. He desires romance and attachment with the fullness of who Violet is. The mind of a scribe, the heart of a rider, all in a disabled body. All right, so I have now edited the episode, my conversation with Alexis and Kendra, and I'm realizing that I need to provide just a little bit more context before I jump into our conversation. I think one of the things that I really like about this series is how it continues to make us question the protagonist's perspective of the world, the things that she thinks she knows, the people or creatures that she's been conditioned to think of as, them, other, evil. And in book 1, a big thing was these griffin flyers. So they're dragon riders, but there's other magical creatures, these griffins and the people who ride them, and they live outside the protected wards of Basgiath. And it's just kind of thought of that like they're all evil, they're all bad, they're all them. And there's also another element that Violet really likes this book. This is maybe one of the reasons I love Violet, is that she really loves these stories. She loves these fables, this book of fables that her father gave her when she was a child. And in these books, there's these like mythical creatures, these wyvern and these venin. And I think they were humans, but they channeled energy directly from the earth rather than through their dragon. And it creates these there's different levels of venin. We still don't know that much about them, but we're learning more in book 2. But what we know about them is that through jealousy or through greed, they channel the earth's power, which is just unheard of. You should be having your power mediated through a griffin or a dragon. And then these venin create these, again, kind of dragon-like creatures called wyvern. And throughout the book, throughout Fourth Wing, Violet is like, oh, like they're mythical. They're like a way to relate to the world, but like they don't actually exist. And at the end of book 1, there's this big reveal that Venin are not only real, but Venin and Wyvern are not only real, but that there are actually griffin flyers that Xaden and all the kids with the relics work with and are like, like co-conspirators with, to try to fight against these forces, these Venin. And so there's like this really big shock for Violet that like this person that she's been falling in love with has kind of been lying to her. And this, like, these creatures that she thought were fantastical are actually real. She even finds out that her brother, Brennan, is actually alive. She thought that he was killed 6 years ago. Her sister and her mom thought the same thing, but he is actually working with the resistance, working with Xaden, working in Tyrrendor for the resistance. But then in book 2, Violet is tasked with keeping this big secret. And so it's kind of, she's keeping this big secret, and Xaden has now graduated from Basgiath. And so he is, stationed several hours away. They only get to see each other once a week because their dragons have to be together, every so often, or else they start getting sick. So that's like the excuse that they have. Anyway, but Violet needs to keep the secret of the resistance, of the existence of like this capital in Tyrrendor, that the resistance is headed, that her brother's alive, that Wyvern and Venin actually exist, that there are, griffin flyers, and it kind of creates this like distance with her and her friend Cree, or Rhiannon. Anyway, in book 2, we just see that Violet is really struggling with, like getting her attachment needs met through her friends, and also making sure that she's not, like spoiling this big secret, or, like it's asking this question about trust. And of course, eventually she does end up telling her friends. They end up helping her with, there's more books and more texts and more stories and other languages to be like there's these, I'm not going to go into all the details. But they do end up working together, and there's this big final battle that is super epic, and the Wyvern and the Venin are coming into Basgiath. Like all the protections of like kind of like this dome of protection is down, and we see that Violet is at this point where she almost is tempted to pull energy from the ground. And that would turn her into Venin, but she's in this like is finally able to like not need to do that, and like keep her integrity, and that's all great. And the book is written from her perspective. And then at the end of the book, at the end of that battle, she finds Xaden, and she sees evidence that he has actually turned Venin. That in this battle, and like it's through their bond, we find that he saw that, she was almost going to be willing to die, almost, was going to martyr herself. And so he wanted to save her, and he like does this unthinkable thing, and he channels this energy in this like unsustainable way that is said to like totally put this mark on him. And I share all of that just because I'm excited at the idea that we find that there maybe is some grace, some mercy that can be extended to people that turn Venin. That maybe, throughout book 1 and even book 2, we've learned that, okay, griffin flyers we thought were evil, but actually they're our allies. And in both books, we know that Venin and Wyvern are bad. Like the whole reason they have these battles anyway, the whole reason they even need a war college is to be protecting themselves from these Venin. And then what happens when the love interest carries that mark, carries that guilt or that burden. And so it is really, really a deep hope of mine that there's some sort of redemption arc that is offered, that is found, a pathway forward for Venin. To me, it's a symbol of capitalism. It's a symbol of overextending ourselves, overexerting ourselves, extracting and exploiting the land and the people. And I'm just really excited. I'm really excited to see how book 3 goes and how we continue to grapple with this like us versus them, good versus evil, that we can be blurring the lines and really be inviting ourselves into nuance. And that just feels you know, of all weeks, given global events, of all weeks for us to be considering this, it feels very interesting that Onyx Storm is coming out amidst this inauguration day in the United States. And I think it's just really important for us to be, for me, my why behind this episode is like, let us really collectively imagine what is the world that we want to have, and really question, like, maybe the ways that people do things are differently. Maybe there's misinformation, maybe there's disinformation, and it's all by design. And can we find the humanity there? Because Violet's journey is a really interesting one. She was taught and conditioned that the kids of the Tirish rebellion were evil, and to fear them and to hate them. And yet, even when they were breaking the rules, Violet had enough sense of herself and what matters to her to see that, like, unjust rules don't need to be kept and definitely don't need to be enforced, even against people that you've been conditioned of as your enemy, even if they are breaking them. And I just wonder what that could look like for me, like at this season of my life. Who are the people that I have been taught to have a single narrative about, and what would it look like for me to extend a little bit of humanity? So the invitation for me in this episode is really like, can we let those most affected by these unjust systems be the leader of the revolution? And can I be curious and compassionate about people that I've been taught to think of as the enemy, and sit in the tension of what that is? And if nothing else, I hope that this book, that Onyx Storm and the Empyrean series can help us readers grapple in all of that mess. So I really hope that you enjoy this episode. I know I really, really, really loved having this conversation with my internet acquaintances from Reddit. And without any further ado, here it is. Welcome, Kendra and Alexis, to the Stoner Story Witch. I'm so excited to have you all here with me today.
Excited to be here.
Mm-hmm. Very excited.
I want to just, I want to give you gals a chance to introduce yourselves. And what I'm really excited about is how we met. Like this time last week, none of us were like aware of each other's existence. And it was super exciting because I just had this thought, like, I have this really niche conversation I want to have about the Empyrean books and about disability justice, specifically, what is it actually, like, what would it be like for someone who has actually had a disabled experience to read these books, to read about Violet? And so I just put an ask out there on Reddit, like, hey, any disabled readers like have read this book and want to talk about it on my podcast? And like a handful of you reached out. I also just want to say there was another one that was Jessica was supposed to join us. Hi, Jessica, if you're listening, I hope you're feeling better. She had a stomach bug. Oh. But here we are, like just mere days later, trusting internet acquaintances. It just feels really lovely to be able to connect this way and have juicy conversations about stories and liberation. So thank you all for being so brave and joining me. I want to just give you both a chance to answer the question, just introduce yourself and answer the question, what identities do you lead with? Alexis, if you would like to go first, you may.
I don't really know what this question meant. Let's be honest.
Oh, okay. Well, so you could just be like, so I would say like, I'm a white cisgender woman.
Mhm.
I'm a wife, a mother, a former high school science teacher. Just like, yeah, like just how would you like, what are the like maybe labels or identities
Okay.
that you just kind of would like introduce yourself to
Hmm.
in a
Okay.
public
Yeah.
way?
Sorry.
No worries.
So I'm a cisgender white white person. I am bisexual. That's recent. Other story. And just it's been really cool to connect with other people who have chronic illnesses. I have over six.
Oh.
And they're very debilitating. Every time I tell someone that, they're just like, oh.
Hmm.
Growing up as a person who is the youngest person in the arthritis center was always fun. So I like to call myself a old lady in a young person's body.
Mm.
Um, and I don't call myself disabled. I do technically qualify for disability because I have rheumatoid arthritis.
Mm.
But I work full time and I try to live as much as I can with that because I'm not really ready for that label in my
Oh,
life
okay.
at the moment. Because I feel like I'm still able-bodied enough to not have to rely on that just to survive, you know. Yeah, and I'm a writer, I'm an editor, I write full time. I'm in marketing and I love fantasy. It's my escape. I like living in a world or imagining that I live in a world where I don't have to deal with this. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. And yeah, thank you for yeah, specifying that you don't use the term disabled. I that was wrong of me to like just be throwing it out. So
Oh no,
thank
it's
you
okay.
for thank you for clarifying. What about you, Kendra? How would you like to introduce yourself? Or
Yeah, I'm Dr. Kendra. I am a sports chiropractor. I use any, all pronouns. I do identify as two-spirit. I am Indigenous and a member of Muskeg Cree Nation in Saskatchewan, currently residing in Washington State. Just kind of getting my practice started out here.
Mm.
Um, I do have an autoimmune disease. I have Crohn's disease. I also have POTS. Um, I was almost eligible for like Ehlers-Danlos uh, diagnosis, but I'm kind of off that criteria by like 1 or 2 points. Um, so know a lot about Ehlers-Danlos, know a lot about like chronic diseases and like living with an autoimmune disease. And a lot of my patients like also have um, conditions. Like work with a lot of athletes with chronic conditions,
Mm.
especially with like EDS. I'm an aerialist, so
Oh.
a lot of people coming into aerials. There's a lot of zebras that are attracted to that side just with being so hypermobile and um,
And you wanted to specify what you mean by zebra, just in case a listener maybe
zebras.
doesn't.
So, so zebras are what people with EDS usually refer to themselves as. Um, and that term actually got started because it's a saying in the medical field is when you hear hoof prints, you think horses and not zebras. And
Mm.
so Ehlers-Danlos is kind of a zebra condition where like a lot of the symptoms fit into other conditions, and then you it takes a lot to get diagnosed,
Hmm.
unfortunately, just
Hmm.
because like it falls through the cracks a lot of the
Yep.
times. And so people with EDS often refer to themselves as zebras.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I work with a lot of people with EDS. Work with a lot of people with POTS. I have POTS myself. And so, um, yeah.
Right, and those are the two
Um,
conditions that both Rebecca Yarros, the author of
yes.
the
Yeah.
Empyrean, as well as Violet, the protagonist, have. So,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for that. All right. So the questions I try to remember to ask everyone that come on the podcast is, how do you connect to your wildness or your most intuitive self? What are archetypal energies or stories that are like guiding or companioning you towards liberation? And what is resourcing you for your own liberation or the collective? Um, Kendra, would you like to go first on this one?
Sure. So, as I said, I'm an aerialist. I've been doing circus arts for about 10 years now. I've silks, aerial hoop, sear wheel, just all that lovely stuff. And then I'm also a snowboarder, and I like doing a lot of crafting. I'm a pretty crafty individual.
Nice. And like a story that's guiding you. Would you say that like the Empyrean is like a story that has been guiding you, or is there like a newer one that kind of feels like is speaking to you?
Yeah. Um, I definitely recommended the Imperium to like so many people. Um, and recently I read what's it called? To Shape a Dragon's Breath, which
Mm.
is another dragon story. It's more of a young adult story. Um, and it's about a Indigenous woman who finds a dragon egg, and she goes to a school um, that is like a colonizer school, and like they didn't
Mm.
know how she got the dragon eggs, so there's a lot of racism and stuff, and that really kind of really connected with like on my Indigenous side, and like
Yeah.
how culture gets destroyed and how
Hmm.
all of that stuff goes down. And so, yeah, To Shape a Dragon's Breath is the one that I really, really enjoyed.
And that actually reminds me because I posted another thread about wanting to have a conversation about like the indigenous erasure and indigenous sovereignty. 'Cause, oh my gosh, I have lots of notes, especially Iron Flame. And Iron Flame, they really
Mhm.
get into, you know, a lot. Maybe can we put a pin in
Yeah,
that? And like if
for
that, or I
sure.
don't know if that would be like another thing that you'd be like interested
Yeah,
in talking at maybe like towards the end because,
of
like,
course.
yeah. And I thank you for, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Sounds like that's a good follow up for people who just can't wait.
Yeah.
What about you, Alexis? How how do you connect to your wildness? What stories are guiding you, and what's resourcing you?
Definitely the Empyrean series right now. Last year when I read the Shadow and Bone series, I absolutely just dove in. It like reignited my passion for writing and reading. And I got inspiration to write again, which was really cool. And both Shadow and Bone and the Empyrean series, I got through my work book club. And they're all very into fantasy series as well. So it was really awesome to kind of talk about like these. Well, now they're very popular, but when they first came out, they weren't as popular. So it was really cool to see like how everyone kind of responded to um these like female heroines in fantasy, which is like my
Mm-hmm.
personal favorite archetype. For sure. Because everybody loves a strong female lead. I literally have a pajama shirt that says "strong female lead." It's my favorite pajama shirt.
What do you
um,
love about that? Like, or maybe what do you mean by that archetype? Like,
mhm.
what are like the defining characteristics of like when you say that like strong female? Not to like totally put you on the spot, but I'm
Yeah, no,
curious
you're
if you
fine.
have thoughts.
I think it's a woman who takes no bullshit from men and is, just
Hmm.
strong and like makes change and isn't like a simpering like Mary Sue. Like it's so hard to find like actual heroes in fantasy series and stories that aren't just like, oh, you're a woman pretending to be a man. Like, no, no, she's a woman being a woman and being a badass
Hmm.
because she is a woman and she is strong and she still deals with all the other crap.
Hmm.
And it's just more like gender equality, I think,
Mm-hmm.
for me, because like I live in the South US, there's very little gender equality here.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of liberating for me. As far as like how I connect like with myself, like writing, obviously, and
Mm-hmm.
reading. I also really love doing escape rooms and playing board games. My husband and I have a very large board game collection.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, we're very competitive, so that's always fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you can't like spar or whatever like in those, but it's
Yeah,
like
I wish.
my sparring is like opening up a board game and like the
Yeah.
trash talk, right? Like there's definitely like the banter that you can get like through
Mhm.
games. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I actually I've kind of wondered like if sorry, this is like a side tangent, but like if people who enjoy fantasy also like enjoy, I mean like D&D or whatever, like
Mhm.
Dungeons and Dragons, but
Yeah.
also just like games, because there is like such an element of competitiveness or like this like back and forth and like these fantasy realms. Anyway, before we pressed record, I think like we agreed that like it was just like really cool to be able to connect, to talk about these things, to like be building community with one another. And really what I'm looking to do is make the connections of where we see disability justice play out in the first two books of the Empyrean series, as well as what we hope for book 3, but also just like, yeah, like what was your actual experience? Like what is it like to be, like what was it like in your body, in your mind, in your like, as like what sensations, emotions, all these things as you were reading. And also like I do want to focus on the positives of the book, and yet I don't want to like just totally like I want to create space for there to be like, this would have been better or I would have liked to have seen this and it didn't happen, or maybe we will see it. So my first question is like, what critiques, if any, do you have of how Violet was represented, or like would you have preferred, or what might you have preferred in a particular scene that might have resonated more deeply with you?
Mhm. I have a very long response for this, so Kendra, if you have a shorter one, you can go first.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So personally, I would have liked to see Violet talk more about her pain and about her condition, like with her friends. Because you see her struggle with it a lot internally, and she, pokes fun with her friends, but she doesn't like really get vulnerable with them, and she doesn't really say like, "Man, I'm really hurting today. Like, I'm really struggling today." And because we all have bad days as
Mm-hmm.
people with chronic illnesses, and she never really allows herself to have that. And also I feel like Rebecca Yarros could have done a little bit better job making it more obvious that she has a chronic condition, because apparently there's like a whole group of readers that didn't even realize that she was struggling with the condition. Like they just assumed she was just physically weak and untrained. And
Oh.
so yeah, I saw that earlier today and it just blew my mind. And I was like, what? But I guess from a person who's never dealt with that in their life, like they didn't really connect the dots.
Yeah, no, that
Um,
totally makes sense. Like, unless you,
Mhm.
like, I have friends that have Ehlers-Danlos, so it was like a couple chapters in, and I like literally Googled like Rebecca Yarros, Ehlers-Danlos, and it was like, oh yeah, oh, that makes sense. Like, like, but yeah, wow, that's a really good point, that like not everybody would have that context to even like
Mhm.
know. So like, a little bit of explicitness would have like, could you
Yeah, because she
explicitly
never
say that?
says it like in the book. And
Yeah, they
also
kind of
I
skirt
didn't
around it.
realize, yeah, I didn't realize that Justinia was deaf, like at all.
Yesenia,
Like, yeah, the what I'm blanking on what she
the
does.
scribe.
Yeah, the scribe, yes. Yeah, I didn't realize that she was deaf. I thought they just always talked with sign language, but I saw that earlier this week and I was like, what? So like I feel like she could do a little bit better job with like being like, this person has this thing, so and
I will say
acknowledge.
I for that was a little bit I was like, she's either deaf
Hmm.
or because like I was like, maybe it's like because
But
like
she was just
it's a
like
scribe, they
super
like
good
have
at
to be
being a
really
scribe.
quiet. It's like, I just will never talk, I will only use my hands. No, that's a really,
Mm,
yeah, like to like, that's a really good point. Like it's like, we're gonna show it but we're not gonna say, but like, but why can't you say it? Like
exactly.
why can't you, why not? Yeah,
Yeah.
really good point. Okay, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. That was pretty much it. It's just like I just wish you would be a little bit more explicit sometimes and not, beat around the bush a little bit. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny because we're in her head, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that I as a reader was even really tracking like that, like the way that she was trying to portray herself to her friends.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's really fascinating that you're like, what I would have wanted was for her to like reach out for, yeah, more
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability, more connection, more like, can you, like, I'm having, like, to normalize, like, oh, I'm having a bad day. And then like
Mm-hmm.
Rhiannon would like rise to the occasion in like a really cool way, because like she would,
Yeah.
that there's like an opportunity for further connection or for further like consistency or security that she could have,
Mhm.
that, yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I think I took a lot of that for granted that like because I have that medical side and work with patients and like it immediately clicked for me
Mm-hmm.
that this is what she was dealing with and not necessarily like okay, people actually don't know about like conditions like these. And I think I just take it for granted for in my head so much that I'm like, I recognize this and like I see this and um even like other doctors, like going through school, there's so many people who've
Mm-hmm.
never heard of this kind of stuff and like have
Mm-hmm.
never like met people like this and like it really kind of helped me to like check my own biases to be like, okay, well, even even doctors get
Yeah.
this wrong. So
Oh,
it's like
absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree, like it should have been a little bit more like spelled out that
Mm-hmm.
this is um a part of her and like um I've gone back and forth like in my head a couple of times about like the scene where they're at Montserrat and Violet's sister Mira tries to say, well, there's nothing wrong with you. And it's like, I
Mm-hmm.
have this struggle where it's like, yes, I'm broken. Like, yes, like I have like this chronic pain and stuff. And like going back and forth between do I want to fix myself? Like if I were to just like
Mm,
wave a magic wand and be like magically cured, would I do that? But then again, it shapes who I am and has shaped who I am as a person, who I am as a
Mm-hmm.
doctor, who am I like as a whole, and like would I actually like want to make that disappear? And so that like internal conflict is a really big thing, and like like hearing people say like, oh, there's nothing wrong with you is really frustrating because you put up this front where it's like you look at me on the outside and
mm-hmm.
you're like, okay, she doesn't deal with this kind of stuff. And like, there's been times on the train where I've sat in disabled seating and people are like, well, you should say that for people who are disabled. And it's like, well, I'm in a lot of pain right now.
Yeah,
So
right, right. So
where
much
where does
invisible.
that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just having it a little bit more visible and spelled out would be great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like I noticed like tingling on my arms like as you were talking about um yeah, like I remember Montserrat. I don't remember the specific context of Mira saying like there's nothing wrong with you, or this like push pull of like, do I, if I could wave a magic wand and be done with it. um but it's like been such a defining part of who you are, and it just like totally shapes like how you can empathize with, I mean, now I guess I'm putting words in your mouth, but I just was like, yeah, like it is who you are, and like to get to a point where it's like I love who I am, and I can't I mean, one of the tenets of disability justice is like this intersectionality, and like all parts of you are there, like your indigeneity, your disability, and it's like it's like the systems that we're trying to operate in that would have you say that you're broken, that would be having these expectations of you, like those are the problems. Like, um, yeah. So I just really, what I hear in your response is this, like, just like this acceptance. It's like, this is just who I am, and I love who I am. And it's just complicated, and it would be nice to be, and then that it would be nice to be seen. It would be nice that like people could consider, like, just because I don't have crutches doesn't mean that like I deserve this accommodation of a seat on the train any more than, you know.
And I found like with colleagues and stuff is that some of the best doctors that I know as colleagues, and they have like chronic pain, they have these like chronic diseases. And I do really feel like it makes me a better doctor to have this like experience where I can relate to my patients on that pain level and that like level where it's like people will have been living in pain for so long, and just to have like their doctor be like, yeah, I get what you're feeling, I get how frustrating it is, and like this is a long journey, it's not going to be fixed magically, like I can do a lot to help you,
Right.
but there's still going to be those bad days, there's still going to be like those times where like you'll have those flares. And I was really lucky in school to have one of my supervising clinicians. She also had POTS, and it her experience helped me get through that, and like get through like there was one time where I was like had just started a new treatment, and I come into clinic and I felt like I was having a stroke. And it was great to have her be like, you gotta look at taking care of yourself first. And you have to like think about like if you're not at your best, then you can't be at the best for your patients, and you can't be as effective. So you have to like, I know you want to do everything. I know you want to like be seen as tough, but like we have to be that like new generation of doctors to take a step back and be like, chronic pain is a big thing. It's a serious thing, and you need to actually take care of yourself so you can help other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I just read this morning, but just because my Google at this point just knows that I'm doing a lot of stuff around Empyrean. So it was like Rebecca Yaros's interview in Elle magazine. And she was talking about having a POTS flare up when she was on this book tour. You're nodding your head like
I read that today too.
And it was so funny, you know, she said like, you know, there should, so anyway, sorry for listeners who don't know what we're talking about. She was on this book tour in Sydney, and she had this huge POTS flare up, very much like what Kendra was just talking, or like similar, where although in her case, she's like, I'm taking every like rescue med that I have. And you can even tell in the pictures that I'm just like in pain and then she's quoted in the article, saying, the most healthy answer would have been, I can't do this tonight. And I didn't say it. And then she said, there should be a way to say, hey, I'm not okay. If we don't take care of ourselves, there won't be any more books. And I'm like, okay, first off, like, fuck more books. like, I just need you to take, like, I'm just like, wow, like, it's just so interesting to me, this like, and I think it kind of resonated with, I thought about that too when you were talking, Alexis, when you were like, to be vulnerable, to be like, I need that, I'm having a bad day, you know, and then Kendra, you being like, you know, we got to put our own oxygen mask on first. And it's like, but it's like, wow, the fact that it's still like that. I mean, what I like, and this is what comes up for me, and I'm projecting, I don't know Rebecca Yaros, but I'm just like, wow, like, I want you to just be well. I just need you well, because I need us all to just be well. And like, and then once you're well, then maybe you can write another book. But like, I was like, I love this series, but if she never writes another book, if that's like what it takes for her to like be who she needs to be and like live the liberated life that then I'm for that, you know, like nothing is more like nothing is more important than that. And 100%, like if you're going to be in like the sports medicine, like, you know, like we, you know, she says, I wish that there were a way to do it. You know, I
Mhm.
wish that we could like live in a world. And it's like, then like when it's available, make it happen. And it's
Mhm.
like, and I'm not blaming Rebecca Yarros by any means, but it's like, wow, like how cool would it be actually if she would have canceled and people, and then like her just, you know, like her readers that resonate with her in this way could be like, wow, like if she can cancel a book event for
Mhm.
her, then like maybe I can use my sick day. You're or like assuming that you have a privilege of sick day and you know like you're or whatever like and
Mhm.
then certainly you know we live in a very unequal and harm-filled world and there are a lot of people who really do, you know, like obviously like so I just want to like name that too, that there's very real
Mhm.
like survival problems.
Yeah, I think like us as people who have chronic illnesses, like we try so hard to be so strong and so present every single day. Like we are fighting a
Mm-hmm.
battle every single day that we forget to be like, hey, you need to chill and
Mm-hmm.
rest for a bit. And Violet is also really bad with that. Like she
Yeah.
never like takes a moment to like rest. Like even people literally tell her like you're going to pass out if you do not
Right.
rest. And like Zayden's constantly on her for it. And I love that. My husband does the exact same thing. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm pushing myself because like the more you push yourself, like the worse your recovery is gonna be.
Yeah.
And it's just like a very big thing that we struggle with. And I don't know why we have this like complex where we're just like, no, like I have to do everything right now. So I love
Yeah.
that Rebecca Yarros also struggles with that. And it's just it's so nice to see someone understand that and convey that through a character in literature. It's really incredible.
Yeah. Well, and it's really cool that I'm so glad that you've like found a partner that you're like when your partner can be like elements of the book boyfriends, like that's just the
Hmm.
best, right?
It's been great.
Yeah. And so I'm hearing that like what, you know, for any listeners out there who might have a partner who is dealing with chronic illness, like what are those things
Hmm.
you that really resource you from your partner, or you know that really that you really like saw in Zayden. I guess we're kind of skipping to the next question, which is like what moments in the books are particularly resourcing for you, or any aspects of Violet's experience that felt like a particularly corrective experience.
Hmm.
And you know, and we can like make it specifically to this like love interest with Zayden.
Yeah, I love that he sees through through her facade and sees what she's struggling with. Like I think part of that is, like the mental bond between them, which
Mm.
is kind of cool. So like he can read her mind and see her inner thoughts and what she's struggling with. Like he understands that like she's always in pain and like she's really, really trying and she's at her limit, and he can be the voice of reason for her and when she's pushing herself, and Taryn can do that as well, which I love. Like I love that she has like, like her familiar basically who can also kind of encourage her, be like, you need to stop, like you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
die, you're gonna kill us, please stop.
Right.
So it's really important to like as a partner to tell the person that you're with, like if they're really struggling and they're just pushing themselves too hard, like look, you've got to take a step back and rest. Like
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, instead of like a day of recovery, you're gonna be out for like a week, and like
Mm-hmm.
you have to work.
Yeah.
So you need to stop trying to push yourself. And like my boss has always taught me this also. Like I
Mm.
I, I hate not coming to work. I hate
Mm.
taking time off because I'm sick again, or like I'm dealing with a flare again. Like it's so annoying, and it's just really important to show, like either whether it's your partner or your employee, like if they're struggling with that, like you have to tell them like it's okay, like I understand, like
Mm-hmm.
you're not like a normal person with a perfect immune system, like it's okay to
Yeah.
take some time off. And I think we're just raised in such an ableist culture with like,
Yeah.
like perfect attendance and that
Yeah.
nonsense. Like it just really makes you be like, I have to be here, I have to be doing this right now, like I have to get this done. Like no, like it's okay, like it's
Right.
just being the person that can say like stop, like you're pushing yourself too hard, you're gonna hurt yourself. And like
Yeah.
she never gives up. Like even when someone's like breaking her arm, she's just like, no, like I'm not done, I'm not giving up, I am not relenting. And it's just like, that's awesome, but like
Yeah.
I would like to see her be a little bit more vulnerable, like with other people, like with Ree and her other friends, because she doesn't do this, especially in Iron Flame. She's so annoying in Iron Flame. I'm just like, I know you're protecting them, but like just
Yeah.
be a person, be their friend. Like you don't have to tell them what's going on, like with all the secrets and stuff, but like
Yeah.
you can still be there for them. So it kind of goes both ways. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm rambling.
No, 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 no. I mean, what comes up for me hearing you say that is like what I think is what is really potent about like both your husband and your employer is like, we live in patriarchy. So there's like this implied, like there is a power imbalance between you and your
Mhm.
husband. I mean, like maybe like there could be other facets of your relationship. I don't know his race or, whatever other factors, but like at a bare minimum, like he has that element where he is like a power
Mhm.
over. And then you have your boss, and like living in
Mhm.
capitalism, like you fucking need a paycheck, like like
Yeah.
your survival depends on this person not thinking that you're slacking. And
Mm.
like what I'm hearing is like, I mean, I'm like I'm so thrilled that you have this support, not just from like your partner, but also from your boss who have this power. And it makes total sense to me that you would feel this like I have to perform because I don't want these because we do live in these systems like regardless of how egalitarian or anti-patriarchal, like regardless of like the work your husband or your boss has done, like there's and like when you're sick, when you're having a flare up, like, you're not going to be able to, like, nobody's their best self. And so to
Mhm.
just be like, oh, like, yeah, it's like, like you might be more prone to this, like, if I don't do it now, then it'll never get done. And da 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 da, because you're
Mhm.
just like dysregulated from the fact that you're having a flare up, that it's just like, hey, like,
Mhm.
ground, close the door, take use your conduit. Like, like, which is the other thing I really like about this show, or this book, is like the different ways of kind of like coming back to yourself, or like, like
Mhm.
Violet kind of has, um you know like it's almost like she can, like it's like she has this practice of like, and I'm curious if this is like a way of like compartmentalizing it.
Mhm.
Which then I feel like is maybe then her secret, like what really helps her then with her like emotional boundaries with Taryn, when she like has to kind of like learn to block him. And Zayden's like, it took me weeks to figure that out, and you figured it out in like 2 minutes. And I was like, oh, it's probably because like in order to survive, she has
Mhm.
to like kind of almost like cut herself off from, or like I don't know. I it was interesting. It was like an interesting thing for me to consider in like my able body of just like,
Yeah.
oh, well, maybe I can just like, what if I just like kept my anger in my fist and like pretend I'm holding a conduit or something like that. But
Mhm.
um, anyway, now I've said some words. I'm curious if either of you have responses to that. And then Kendra, I know I want to make sure you have a chance to answer this question before I move on
Mhm.
to.
I completely relate. Like I I don't know if you guys are familiar with this at all, but I try and practice like redirecting my pain. Like if I'm having like really like tough time with like if I'm having a migraine, or if like my knee's acting up, or another joint is being annoying, like I'll usually just like bite the inside of my mouth, and like because that's all the pain that I can focus on right now. And it kind of helps me just be like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain, and kind of go back to like, okay, I'm getting shit done, like I'm living and kind of dealing with it. 'Cause it's like it's like when you get a tattoo. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but like when you get a tattoo, it's like all I can focus on is that pain, and not
Mm-hmm.
the other pain that I have in the rest of my body. It's just like a nice distraction. So like that's kind of how I kind of compartmentalize. Like I'm just like, I'm not gonna think about every single joint in my body that aches like hell right now. Like I'm just gonna focus on, like making a fist.
Creating other
And like I know
sensations.
some people, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of focus with that. But I do like how she like visualizes like going in the archives and shutting the door and everything. I can't wait to see how they do that in the show. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I
right.
yeah, I completely agree. Like that's really cool that like I didn't really realize I did that until I read
Mm.
about it or saw like a TikTok about it. And I was like, oh, that's not normal. But It's cool
Yeah.
that other people do that.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
really
yeah.
bad at like compartmentalizing my pain because like I just work through it,
Mm,
which isn't the healthiest thing, but like I will, it comes from being an athlete. It comes from like
mm,
all this stuff where it's like you hurt, but you just got to keep going through it. And like
mm,
it's not, it's kind of like putting it in a box and like shoving it away, but it's like I'm here, I got to do it anyways. And I
mm.
just try to put it out of my mind. And like, yeah, it not the healthiest. Definitely not what I tell patients to do. I do a lot of that too, is like I am very good at educating people about their pain and
Mhm.
educating them about like what to do with the pain and like how to help themselves. And then I just don't do it.
Yeah. Is that like do as I say, not as I do?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, and like, and then there's also just like, and also you got to pay the bills, you know? So it's like, they're like, it's like, okay, maybe it's not the healthiest, but it's also like survival. And unless capitalism goes away, like there is some level of, like, I don't know, like exploitation of, of our body's natural rhythms. I mean, like whether you're able-bodied or not, like what capitalism expects of people is ridiculous, and it's just extra hard for people that like like they can't always like predict when they're gonna have like you can't like plan around a flare up or um
Yeah.
and so I think like I hear you, Kendra, for like having like a desire to like do better at taking breaks and like a yearning to like practice what you preach, and also like like you're not bad for working through it, like
Mhm.
it's survival, and like
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with needing to survive. Like that's just it just is. Yeah. Kendra, did you have any like moments in the books that were particularly resourcing for you, or aspects of Violet's experience that felt like particularly corrective?
Um, yeah, I appreciate how Zayden always like reminds her how strong she is
Mm,
Mhm.
and that there are different types of strength and that like even if you're not like even if he said what was it? It's only the body that the weak only the body that is weak. But you are unbreakable and like that
mhm,
was very swoon worthy. And yeah, my own partner, he's always like reminding me that this isn't normal to be in pain all the time.
mhm,
And like when I am particularly being bullheaded and like, oh, I'm fine, I'm fine. He's like, this isn't normal. Like, you're not supposed to like have daily headaches.
mm,
And like, you've got to go and go and do a colonoscopy. He's been trying to tell me for the last few months that I'm overdue for a colonoscopy. He's
mm.
like, "Did you get it booked yet?" And I'm like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
uh, but like having that partner there to like remind you that like there's different types of strength and there's different types of um ways to go about things and like even like the gauntlet, Satan tells her like it's not always the right way, or the right way isn't the only way to do it. And
Yes.
like
Yeah.
that was really, oh yeah, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, totally.
Mhm.
All right. My next question is, I mean, if any come up, what sensations and emotions did you notice in yourself as you were reading these books? Or put differently, like in what ways would these books be like helping you actually like feel liberation?
Mhm. I don't know about you guys, but I feel so much stronger just like reading these books, like, I feel inspired and I'm like more determined to live,
Mm.
because having these health issues, it's so depressing. It is, on bad days, it's so hard to just want to be alive,
Mm.
And like, I know a large part of the Empyrean is like you could die at any moment, like, so it's a lot about survival, but it's not just that. Like, she doesn't just have to survive, she wants to survive. She has the strength and resolve. She wants to be successful, she wants to make a difference, she wants to be powerful and fight and take down her enemies. Like, she works at it so hard, and I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
man, like, I could be doing other things that I really want to do, and I've just been letting my health set me back and prevent me from doing that. And like, she inspires me to not do that and go and do stuff. Like, because of these books, like, I went out and started acting and started writing my own films and stuff. So I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to do this, but like, oh, I'm not like able-bodied enough. No, screw it. Like, it's been such an amazing experience.
Mm.
Just putting myself out there and doing that. And so I absolutely credit Rebecca Yarros for having that kind of character to really resonate with readers who struggle with this, because it's not just survival, it's, the desire to be and to live, and not
Mm-hmm.
just because you have to.
Yeah. Hearing you just say that, I'm also thinking of, like, when they start out the book, the very first book, it's like, oh my gosh, like, Lilith, don't make, Lilith is the mom's name, like, don't
Mhm.
make Violet go, like, are you kidding? Like, this is so dangerous. Why would you make her do this? And again, like, there's they're kind of like not really talking about, like, there's this like like, they're
Mhm.
not really saying why, but like we see it. But then we find out, like, the more she's gaining confidence and competent, like,
Mhm.
skilling up, that, like, she's like, I never feel more free than when I'm on a
Yep.
dragon. Like, she never dreamt of being a writer until her mom,
Mhm.
like, forced her into it or whatever. And but it's like, is it because she never thought that was possible, because of, everybody telling her how physically impossible it would be,
Mhm.
because no dragon in the history of Biscayeth has ever accommodated their seat. But,
Right.
like, and again, like, this strongest fucking dragon bonds you, because, like, because she's worthy, like,
Mhm.
in like in the whole mix of all of who she is, like, her in like the full complexity of her body.
Mhm.
Um and so, yeah, hearing you say, like, I never, like, like, there was this, like, thing I just never even envisioned for myself, but I'm like, fuck it,
Mhm.
like, if Violet can write a dragon, I can write a screenplay. Like,
Right.
fuck yeah, like, oh my god, like, let's, if the Empyrean did nothing else than help Alexis connect to her dreams, like, dreams that she maybe never even realized she had, I'm here for it. I fucking love that. Thank you.
I love how Violet's like almost turns like the underestimation of her into like a fuel,
Mhm.
where like she's been underestimated at every single turn, and like she's kind of really come into that and like use it to her advantage, where she's like, yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super powerful and people don't believe that, and use it to their advantage, And like, yeah. Um, I really like how she trains with like Imogen, and actually like realizes that um the strengthening exercises help to like not like cure her, but like help to mitigate some of those
Mm-hmm.
symptoms. And like
Mhm.
I do a lot of that with patients, is like one of my things is exercise is medicine. And
Mm-hmm.
like it's a long uphill battle, but it definitely, like, getting stronger does help, even when you feel like complete crap. And like
Mhm.
just having that like strength training and doesn't cure everything, but it certainly does help. And like, I really, really like how that was portrayed. And like,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I definitely feel like a kinship with Violet.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also, with like, there was that scene that they're talking about, with Devera's talking about what has been lost with the unification, and with like the culture, and like there's tradition and language and like stories that were lost with the unification,
Mm-hmm.
and like things that were lost in translation, that really spoke to me as well. And that like I was like, yeah, like my grandmother was in residential school where she couldn't speak her language. She like there was a lot of stuff that was lost there. And um being on my own journey of like regaining tradition and being able to um connect with my culture. And I was lucky enough to be able to work up in Alaska, at the Alaska Native Medical Center, and being able to work with like be surrounded by my people and be surrounded by like my culture. And like that was really healing for me. And like I felt like being able to like connect in that way, and reading that in the book was just like, yeah, this stuff gets lost, and
Mm-hmm.
there's some things that we'll never know from like my culture. And that really makes me sad, but it also like makes me determined to regain some of that.
Right. Yeah. Like to be a keeper of that wisdom. And like that's such a big part of, when they talk about Violet as being like this mind of a scribe, is like she wants to hold on to that. There's such a, um, thank you so much for bringing in like the indigenous aspect of that too, because 100% I was just like, oh, Biscayeth is a residential school. Like they have genocided the parents, and then like they are now forcing the kids to sign a pledge of allegiance to Navarre, um, and like and join the most dangerous quadrant, in or like or else they would have been killed. And then it's pretty subtle, but there's a moment when, I think it was when Xaden was meeting Jacinia, and Violet is like, you can sign, and he's like, you speak Tirish, and one is far more common than the other. And so there's like this, what I think is really interesting about that is that, like, that particular, like, if there was two lines that could just like unite like the disability justice, because like let's remember, like Yesenia is deaf, that like Xaden has put in the work to learn how to sign, but Violet, through like her educate, I mean, like, how did she speak Tyr? Like, assuming her, like her dad, I guess, like who was a scribe, like had taught her this, but it's like, oh, I mean, like that would be the equivalent of like me having learned, like where like I grew up on like Dakota land, so like me learning like like Dakota, like I no, I didn't. Like that was not taught to me um in school. um and so yeah, I that is absolutely a parallel that I think, like when I read these books, I'm just like how can people not be like not see the connections.
Going back to like in Fourth Wing, when Violet and even her mom and her sister are like, she's super strong because of her pain. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was really refreshing to see that representation, that we are in pain every second of every single day. And like up until the the moment that we're unconscious, basically. And so like if we say it hurts, it really fucking hurts. And like a normal able-bodied person, like in our level of pain every single day, like they'd be writhing on the floor in agony and be wanting pain meds, and we just do it. And but like everybody doubts her because like she has these joint issues, and her bones break so easily, but like she is so strong like because of that. And so it was just, oh God, I felt so seen. Like every time she says like, oh, I'm in so much pain, but like I'm doing it anyway. Like I am pain. I live in pain. Like that's just what I am, what I do. And like you never see anyone like acknowledge that like verbally. Like she doesn't really do it verbally as much as she should probably. Um but yeah, I just like I have never resonated with a protagonist or a character in general like so strongly that I have with Violet. You know, like going back to when I was telling you about Shadow and Bone, like she grew up kind of sickly, and like I'm sick constantly. I have a very crappy immune system. I've been sick since Thanksgiving basically. It's just, so it's like I absolutely relate to calling out of school and work because I'm sick with another thing that's going around. But like her character, when she realizes her magical powers, her issues like go away because she was suppressing her magical abilities her whole life. So it like cured her. And I didn't like that. Like I don't like that she was cured um with her magic. Whereas Violet, like she gets stronger with her magic, and she gets stronger like as she continues to train. And but she still deals with it like on an every single day basis. And I love that like we touch on that repeatedly and acknowledge like she's still dealing with it. Like this, she's not magically cured.
Right.
So like it was really nice to see a hero that like was still chronically ill, like even after having magical powers and dragons and shit. So like that was just really cool for me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because they're like that's like this like ableist narrative, like, and
Yes.
then the body is fit, and it's like no, but like I don't want to be broken, so don't fix me, like, or
Yep.
fix the system that tries to tell me I'm broken.
Yeah.
You saying all that did remind me that Jessica, who wasn't able to make it, she did share a quote that she loved, which is Violet deals with more pain before lunch than you do in an entire week. And I was like,
Yes. I love
yeah,
that.
I think like we'll let her like put that in here. Yeah, because I mean, yeah, I am one of those able-bodied people that would 100% like crack under like the weight of what it that it's like it's like something that I can like cognitively be like, oh wow, and like and like I feel like an empathy, like I don't like a compassion of like I don't want anybody to do, but it's like but that is not my lived experience. And it's and it is cool to you know, like if I like if we live long enough, like if you don't die an early death, like we're all going to be disabled at some point, right? And so it's like
Yep.
disability justice, like it comes for everyone. And and nobody should have to deal with this. So yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I was doing a lot of that in school where you're surprised by how many people there are that don't know what pain feels like, that what like living with chronic pain is. And like I feel like throughout school I was just like reminding people that like living with pain is hard, and like it can be really insidious, and a lot of people don't understand that. And like I felt like I was having to speak up a lot to be like, this is what it's like to actually deal with the pain. And like I feel like at least with my education they're trying to get a little bit better with having that part in it. And that's one of the reasons that I chose an allied health profession instead of going into allopathic medicine or like your traditional MD or DO route, is that we're kind of the people that people see when everyone else has failed them. And like going through the medical system myself and having like long roads to diagnoses and long like roads to like having people take my pain seriously, it really just led me down the path of I see those people and I see that there's a solution for them. And I always tell people that chiropractic is going towards the way of, we're not the ones fighting against the medical system. We're the ones that are trying to help take that burden off of the medical system and like take that burden from them and take people more away from the pain pills and like it's not a cure-all. Like chiropractic can't cure your allergies or cure your autism or cure any of those. And I feel hope for the profession, because I feel like a lot of doctors are seeing that, oh, we can bring them in and like we can send people their way and we can take loads off of our plate and we can actually work together to like treat the whole person. And I really feel hope for the future working with like doctors. And I feel like more and more traditional doctors that I talk to, MDs, are seeing that the medical system is so screwed up right now that this discourse that happens between our professions has to come to a solution where we see each other and we know what our strengths and what our weaknesses are, and that people go and look for chiropractors because traditional medicine has failed them.
Right.
And I feel like it's a responsibility of mine as someone who suffers from chronic pain to like speak to other doctors and speak out and educate like my colleagues about these things that we slip through the cracks, and we go out and we find what we can to just survive the pain, you know?
Right. Like there's more resources out there. Like we don't need to be like, like flooding the system with these doctors that are only thinking they're seeing horses when there's actually zebras, when it's like, hey, there's actually a lot of people that like, there is like this growing community and more information and then and then also like that there's not the expectation that there's like cure, but it's, it's mitigation or management. And then of course the question then is like, does insurance, and like it's still like I don't know, from what I have gathered from my friends with disabilities, it's still a fucking nightmare of navigating like the whole like medical, and this is, I'm speaking about like in the United States like specifically, but I think it continues to be, I mean, I don't know that, I don't know.
It's a hot
I'm
mess.
Canadian, and so I am now in Washington, and it's been kind of a adjustment period going from Canadian healthcare to American healthcare. And like I had all of my education in the States, and that was eye-opening to be like, wow,
Yeah.
what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my friends, she lives in Canada at the moment. She has a couple of health issues, and she's writing a book on like how the Canadian healthcare system is like dealing with this with disability, and like how there are so few accommodations. And I feel like even in the United States, like we really don't have as many accommodations in like everyday life as we should. And I think it's really important to have like teachers and doctors like Violet does, who are just like, okay, yeah, you have this, like we're gonna work with you, and like it's okay that you're accommodating your illness. Whereas like in real life, like you get shamed for that. And like people judge you for using the elevator instead of the stairs, or using the handicap stall, or sitting in a handicap designated seat. Like just because you can't like see my illness, like doesn't mean it's your place to judge who I am. But like we have such a lack of just like ramps. Even like every freaking house has stairs leading up to it, like, and all the sidewalks are messed up and you can't take a wheelchair or walker down it. And it's just like there's so many things in society that we could be doing better to accommodate people who deal with this, because like you were saying earlier, like disability is not a what if, like it is an eventuality. It's gonna happen to
Mm-hmm.
you at some point, like whether it's a serious injury and you're laid up for an entire month,
Mm-hmm.
or you get a chronic illness
Mm-hmm.
and everything changes. Like it's gonna happen to you at some point. And it's like I feel like we need to stop being so ableist and being like making all these things to help able-bodied people be better, and instead of having like tools um like I struggle with like holding things and gripping things. So I wish I had like tools and utensils and stuff that were easier for me to hold. Like brushing my hair, holding my hairbrush is so painful. Like
Mm.
I need a hairbrush that is comfortable to hold. Like I wish that kind of thing existed. And just acknowledging that like people struggle with different things, and like we all have like different physical issues. Like why is everything made one way? Like
Mm.
it's just so frustrating. So I love
Mm.
that Rebecca is just like, yeah, she's used as accommodation and no one cares. Like they deal with
Right.
it. So
Mm-hmm.
like I wish our society was a little bit more like that.
Right. And also noteworthy that like Violet was like pushing it away at first. Like Zayden had
Mm-hmm.
it made, and like
Yep.
Taryn is like, no. Like I quote it in the intro, in my intro, because I love it. He says, "There's no rule that says a dragon cannot modify their seat to serve their rider. You have worked
Mm-hmm.
just as hard, if not harder, than every rider in this quadrant. Just because your body is built differently than the others doesn't mean you don't deserve to keep your seat. It takes
Yep.
more than a few strips of leather and a pommel to define a rider." And I was like, you could almost make like, do you guys remember like Mad Gabs? Like from
Yeah.
back in the day, like you like it's like you'd like take out a word and it's like insert adverb here. It's like you could
Mm-hmm.
almost like take out the word, like, take out the words that are like specifically to Empyrean, and but like make it such that people could just like insert their own like experience of like a disability accommodation. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about making some sort of like mad gab with that, because I was like, man, I just feel like that is such a potent, it packs a punch.
Yeah.
Oh.
I love that moment. We need more Taryn in the real world.
Oh my gosh. And I just want to say, like, I love that too. I think you're speaking to this a little bit, Alexis, so I'm going to circle back to it. Like this, what I feel like a lot of the romantasy is there's so much like, there's always like this like bond or mind reading that like
Mm-hmm.
the love interest can do, that just like helps this level of attunement of like, I don't even have to ask. Like he just
Mm-hmm.
knows. He just gets me. It's like this effortless. And like not only does he get me, but he wants to get me and he wants to help.
Yeah.
Um, and also this like, almost like fairy godmother type like it's like Taryn
Mm-hmm.
is like, she is never alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like Taryn can communicate through like the dragon bond, and Darna, like her other dragon. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just, there's always like, unless they're sleeping, I guess, or maybe they have their shields up, but pretty much like there's like this constant presence. And I was just like, oh man, like what a, like what a, like a little guardian angel, or like there's different
Mm-hmm.
contexts that like that like we can have for that. But um like opening up an imagination of like, man, like if I had a dragon, what would they be saying to me right now to encourage me?
Right.
Or like, what is our hard stop, folks?
My husband's on his way home, and then we have to go to D&D. So I have probably another 20 minutes.
See, I nailed it on the
Yes, you did.
D&D. That's
I
so
love
funny.
D&D too.
Great.
I just played for the first time last year with some of my friends, so I was like, I could like get into this. Like I think like it like I think it would like take me a few. Okay, you started speaking a little bit, Kendra, from like the like that your grandmother was in the, like, had been in the residential school, and like this yearning. Is there, I want to make sure that I'm like, because like I pulled quotes and I've got thoughts on like a lot of the indigenous sovereignty connections. Um, but I want to start with you if you had more that you wanted to share on that.
It's kind of it's wild. Like going back to like colonial times where there were certain tribes, mine included. I come from the Cree, up in Canada, where we spread across Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, and we kind of took pride in working with like the fur traders and working with them and being like the people that we are in this, like we don't mind you guys being on our land, and then just totally being taken advantage of after that, where it's like, what the hell, we were in this together. And then they turn out to be like, okay, now we're sending all your children to school. We're um, forget about that like sense of working together. And I feel like a lot of the lore behind like the world building stuff, where it's like, um, uh, Tyrandor was all for it. They were all like working towards like vanquishing the Venom and like on the same side and like for the unification. And then all of a sudden they're like, what the hell? Now we can't speak our language. Now we can't practice our cultural practices, and runes are banned. And like that really kind of hit hard, where it's like you think that you're doing like the right thing by like working with them, and then they turn around and oppress you anyways. And it's like, damn, like what side were we on in the first place, you know?
Right. Yeah, a big gut punch for sure. I it's and like this is mirrored so great in the like it takes one generation to change the text, one generation to teach that text, and the next grows, and then the lie becomes history. And then I really loved like when that scene that Violet like saw Xaden helping all the first years in book one. He says the phrase, keep what you know, recite what they tell you. And I just like, and like that was before we even like knew before we were exposed to like that big lie of like, oh no, like Violet is like on the bad side, you know, like the people we thought. And that I love how like romantasy in like such a really great way, like takes these beings that like we are trained and conditioned as the reader to think of as like the bad guys, and then it's just like actually there is nuance. But yeah, when I read that I was just like, oh, there is definitely like some sort of like indigenous wisdom that like they're all privy to, you know, or like it's like I just like, you know, which I think sounds to me similar to you being like, you know, I'm sad at all I've lost, but I want to like I want to keep what we know now. I don't want to lose any more. And yet we live in a world that kind of is like, in order to survive, you might just kind of need to like recite what you're told or play by the certain rules in these contexts, because like maybe you're in a space that it's not super safe to go off on indigenous sovereignty or what have you.
And when Xaden like gives her the book with the knots, and she's like, what is this for? And goes, culture violence.
Yeah. The that there's this power, there's these runes that you can weave to draw specific power, and that they're wielded power for set purposes. And we know that Basgiath doesn't teach ruins, but they are built on them. And I just was like, oh man, like if that is not just like chef's kiss, like a metaphor for like we are benefiting from like the work, the labor, the power, the, you know, like the relationality that other folks had with this land, but we're not actually, but now we're going to like pretend that it didn't even exist, not even teach to it. And yeah, and they say that they lost major parts of their culture, not just language, their songs, their festivals, their libraries, everything in Tirish had to be changed. And yeah, the loss of the folklore, that it only serves as an oral history. People raised in Caladir or Lucerus or other provinces aren't raised with the same folklore. They don't know the stories, and generation by generation, we're losing it. And like I hear like... that very much being echoed in your experience too, Kendra. I want to bring it to hopes for Onyx Storm. Do you still have time, Alexis? You have like 10 more
Yes.
minutes?
Yeah,
Okay.
a little bit more time. I really hope that Violet can kind of connect with other people who struggle with chronic illnesses, and show more people in the series and in real life that someone with these issues can be a strong and powerful warrior. Because I feel like she's helping us like feel seen, but it would be really cool to help others like in her world feel seen and like that they can do more. And I feel like she does that like with her friends, but I would like her to meet more people, um like now that she's like on the rebel side,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of help other people kind of come into their own and realize their own power, you know. I think that would be really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see everybody get the dragon scale armor
Yes.
and saddles for everybody, because I think not just like Violet can benefit from that. And like,
Mhm.
definitely, if you can make it easier for everybody to keep their seat, and like, especially when you're fighting Wyvern, where you're going to have to do these like crazy maneuvers,
Yep.
why not just like make it easy for everybody to like
Mhm.
do these like crazy aerial battles and stuff? And like, um, and then I also, that interview that Rebecca did where she was like, "Oh, I wish I could do what Chaperone did." Like, I hope that she can find
Yes.
more of her voice as well, and like realize that you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're talking about Rebecca Yaros or Violet or
Yeah,
both?
yeah. Rebecca, both. You can't pour from an empty cup,
Yeah.
because I feel like she's going that route of like, oh, I have to help Zayden, like I have to cure Zayden, I have to like Zayden is going to be my focus, and like she needs to chill out a little bit more and like
Yeah.
Yeah.
have a little bit more romance between.
Yeah. Yeah. More romance. We got to see that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I agree. I I mean, Alexis, earlier you were talking about like I want her to be vulnerable and like I want like it would actually be nice if she just like did have a flare up where it's like, okay, yeah, like there is a battle, but like I am so sorry. Like I'm going to have
Yeah.
to sit this one out, and like for everybody to like be okay in the end.
Hmm.
Like that maybe there might actually be a battle that's epic and Violet can't be there.
Yeah, that would be nice.
um And yeah, I love your point too, Kendra. Like, you know, I just think that like anytime we are, I mean, this is another tenet of disability justice, and I can link to it in show notes. But like, it's the leadership of leadership of those most impacted. So it's like what actually can happen when we're listening to people who are most impacted by these systems is like things get easier for everyone. Like no body does well under the demands that we make bodies undergo in capitalism. Some people can like mask better or, you know, like, or maybe, but it's like there's also studies that show that like wear and tear and stress can like then lead to development of autoimmune disorders. So
Yep.
it's again, it's one of those like you're able, you know, you're quote unquote able-bodied until, you know, you overexert yourself in these like unsustainable ways that capitalism expects of us. Anyway, so I love the idea that like, hey, maybe everybody else, maybe we will do a better job of attacking these like, you know, like these malicious forces if everybody has
Mhm.
like a little bit more ease in this way. And like Violet led the way of making that possible.
Yeah.
And like maybe she would feel like not so ostracized or whatever. Like maybe she would feel like,
Mhm.
oh, everybody else has one, so no, it's not weird that I have it, right?
Yeah.
I what I really really liked about the second book is like continuing to break down like um the Griffin riders and
Mhm.
like cuz speaking to the runes there was this like wait, you trade runes, and they're like, "Ugh, you call yourselves a family? Of course we share, whoever can make it does, and then we trade so everyone is equally equipped. You're used to hoarding power, not sharing it." I love that there continues to be these ways that like Violet is learning that like, oh, like these things that I thought like condition, like tendencies that I've been conditioned into. It's like there are other ways. There's other ways of doing it. There's okay. There was also oh yeah, at one point she's like asking somebody like, "Oh, you can like, oh, you are a," I forget what the ability is, but they say like, "Unlike writers, we don't label ourselves by our ability." And then she's like, "Noted. I fucking hate being disadvantaged by ignorance, but it's not like the archives were stacked with tomes on flyers or what they've gone through for the last 600 years." And what I really like about that is that it's like, because I see a little bit of myself in Violet of like, oh, like I've like lived this sheltered life and like I don't necessarily like know what I don't know. And then you start learning and there's this like tendency to get into this like, you know, it's sometimes called like white fragility in like racial contexts or whatever, but it's just like, oh, but like I didn't know. And then I feel really ashamed that I didn't know this thing. So I really like seeing Violet grapple with like her positionality of being, you know, a Soren Gale and what that means. I also really like, you know, like I, they teased a little bit this idea of like all these folklores and fables, like kind of like, you know, like her dad like left all these breadcrumbs in these books, but then we also know that all these other, you know, like I guess they don't use the word tribe, but you know, like other like groups of people with their own languages, their own cultures, their own, they all have different folklores. And I want there to be like, my hope is that Onyx Storm, like that there is some answer, because what we're left with at the end of book 2 is that Xaden has done like the unforgivable, which is channeling power directly from the earth and not through a dragon. Which I don't know if the metaphor is like, you know, that maybe dragons are like being in right relationship or an honorable harvest or some sort of like, okay, like we know that the magic can only be sustained in this way. And like, you are now extracting, you are now out of relationship. You are now, you know, maybe like that there's this like drawing from the earth that maybe that's capitalism. I don't know. We'll have to see what it is in Onyx Storm, but Xaden is now like a bona fide bad guy. Like it gives us another opportunity to be like, okay, are we going to learn more about Venin? And like it made like he turned for a really good reason. Like he had a series of bad choices and he picked one of them. And like can he have, is there a merciful end for that? Is there a way that, you know, somebody says like you can't give back what you've taken, and I'm like, no, I don't buy that. Like I think that my hope is that there's some way that like through stories or through like a reconnection of some of those practices or you know, with like this indigeneity that is at risk of being lost, that there will be some like, you know, some path forward. Is my hope for Onyx Storm. And I'm going to be pissed if Violet gets pregnant. I'm going to be so mad if, because I can't with that anymore.
I keep seeing all these like theories about like that Violet is like the secret to curing Venin and like turning them back to human. So like that would be really interesting to explore, but I do hope that we get to learn more about the Venin and like how you can exist as a Venin now that Xaden is one, because I was so mad at the end of that book. But like it opens up like a whole nother side, because it's a whole nother culture that we get to learn about, which is really fascinating, because like I love world building. It's so interesting. So I'm excited and scared at the same time, because I'm like, no, Xaden, no, but at the same time, like, how does this work? You know, so
I'm excited to see the Isle Kingdoms.
Yeah.
Oh,
say more.
So the Isle Kingdoms like were a like a ally during the Great War. And so I think they're like, it's been like teased that they're going to try to find Andarna's breed. And so I think they're going to travel to like the Isle Kingdoms to see what they can find, if they can find Andarna's family, because she said she was left behind in Iron Flame. and that she waited 600 years to hatch.
Yep.
And so if she was left behind, where did they go?
Right.
Yeah, that
Right.
would be really cool. Oh, I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, me too. All right. Any other final thoughts or final thoughts, hopes, dreams, and just like how you're feeling as we're closing out.
I'm just waiting for the book to show up on Kindle and blocked a couple of days off to.
Oh, smart. I should have done that. Man, yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so much for having us on here. This was so fun. Like, I love talking about the series and the issues that come with, being chronically ill and stuff. Like, it's really easy to feel alone when you're struggling with this. So, like, I love meeting new people who kind of understand what it's like, because like nobody in my immediate circle like gets it, So I think building the community like through the internet and through literature like this is it's so cool. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I just feel so enlivened. I'm so happy to have met you guys. And yeah, I mean, we still have we can still we're not going anywhere. We're going to end the call, but there's right. No, we can circle back if needed. Or if we
I'm excited for the episode to come out, and I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yay. A lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Take good care. Thanks so much, Alexis and Kendra, for coming on to my show. It was such a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you to the Reddit community on Fourth Wing, and my utmost appreciation for all the work that Rebecca Yarros has done to kind of sneak in what I think are some really subversive themes into these books. It is really my hope that they are empowering us to collectively imagine a better future as we're standing at this threshold time. And again, always a shout out to Carmen Spaniola. She is a huge friend, mentor of mine, not just in the work of secure attachment and contact nutrition, but on the Numinous Network. She has a really great community of witnessing and reflection and resources for people who are living with chronic illnesses and disabilities. I know a lot of my learning around disability justice these last couple years have been as a result of being in the Numinous Network, meeting more people with these lived experiences, and I'm just immensely grateful for the network that she has there. And certainly I'll post to that too in the show notes as much as I can. I'm posting everything that I can in the show notes. Thank you all so much for listening. And I'm really excited for Onyx Storm, and we'll perhaps post out another episode when I'm done reading it and see where the conversation's headed then. And I want to thank Matt Shuby for the podcast art, my husband Kevin Carlo for all his help in the creation of the theme song for the podcast, and Aeneas Mitchell and John Williams for their inspiration of Hedwig's theme and Hadestown. And before I sign off, I would like to leave you with a quote from another one of my teachers, Rev Angel Kyoto Williams, who says, "Love and justice are not two. Without inner change, there can be no outer change. And without collective change, no change matters."